Olá! Thank you for watching this video series on translation and technology brought to you by the Language Resource Center at the University of Michigan and the Corpus-Driven Terminology and Translation Research Group from the University of Brasília. My name is Elisa Duarte Teixeira, and this is what we are going to go over in this video. In video 4, we will be contextualizing digital texts. That means we are going to start by explaining what we mean by digital texts, and then what's the relation of digital texts and language in general, and more specifically, how corpus linguistics, the science that studies language through digital texts, what's the importance of them to this science. And of course, if we talk about corpus linguistics, we have to talk about what a corpus is. So I'm going to start with some basic notions and then show you some of the most common corpus linguistics tools. So before the computers were around, there were people already studying language using evidence-based observations. But for that, they had to record the language somehow, and they used to record it in written form in paper. As you can see here, one of the creators of the Oxford Dictionary, English Dictionary, and this is a little piece of paper where they would record the meaning of a word and all this all the meanings he had organized in this library of his. So you can imagine how hard it was to keep a collection like that. So then in the 1980s, the computers started to become more popular. They existed before, since the 1960s. They started to come into the universities, but then in the 1980s, with the personal computers, everything pretty much changed in our lives, right? So with that, corpus linguistics, which is the science that studies language using corpora. Corpora is the plural of corpus, and corpus is a collection of textual materials, had a great revival because then the techniques and everything became so much easier to do using electronic texts. So why use computers to study language in the first place? Computers, as I said in another video, they are very good with certain tasks. For instance, to locate all occurrences of the word pepper in a corpus of 1 million words. They would do that in a second. And for us, it would take forever if we had to read to find the occurrences of that word in a corpus. But also, they do not get tired as we do. They work fast. They do not make mistakes. Usually, the ones who make mistakes are us. And they can work with the massive quantities of data, which for us not only takes time, but we are very prone to making mistakes as we get tired and all that. So now let's have a brief look at some of the basic notions that we have to start studying and learning more about corpora and how they can be used for translation. So some basic notions. Corpus can mean any collection of study material in the linguistics or language study in general. But for corpus linguistics, they have to be large collections of digital text, and this is the most important part. The pluribus corpora, as I said before, and some of the main features of a corpus are, and features that they have to have in order to be called a corpus in corpus linguistics, it has to be machine readable and searchable files. So that PDFs that have images are not searchable. They have to contain naturally occurring material, so you cannot go interviewing people and asking them to make a sentence with a certain word and use that as a corpus. They have to be spontaneous. They have to be balanced and representative. And these two are very, very difficult concepts of corpus linguistics that we are going to go deeper in another opportunity. But basically, if you want to make assumptions about the general language or a certain set of the language, you have to have a corpus that represent minimally that portion of the language or the language in general. And they also have to be built under clear design criteria, so we know exactly what's in the corpus and then what it can be used for. So there are several different types of corpora. Here is a list that you can check later calmly. But we are going to mostly work with the written corpora because I'm here talking about translation of written texts. And we are going to go over some of the text types, the corpus types that are more useful and interesting for translation. And not only linguists use corpora, but also a lot of applied uses of corpora for people that have nothing to do with linguistics, but use corpora for many other purposes. So dictionary makers, grammarians, but also people that work with computational linguistics, sociologists, etc., forensics. But translators are one of the huge group that uses corpus in their research and in their work as well. Now let's have a look at some of the most commonly used tools to work with corpora. So here are some of the most common tools that most applications will present to the user. Of course, they can have different other applications that are more specific to each one, but most of them, or I would say even 99% of them, will have at least these features here. A word list, and I'm going to go over each one of them. Some statistics, a keyword list, and keyword is a statistical calculation that I'm going to explain. Keywords in context or quick, that are also called concordance lines, when you can see the context, the actual context where the words and expressions occur. And also patterns in general. So there are 3 types of patterns that we usually search in a corpus: clusters, collocates, and n-grams. And I'm going to speak briefly about each one of them next. So here's an example of a word list of a corpus of recipes in English. And the first one on the left, it's organized by frequency from the most frequent word to the least frequent word. And we are seeing here the first 17 words. The second one is organized alphabetically. And I started here showing you the letter G in position 5069. And then the same list is organized alphabetically, but from the last to the first word. That helps us put together words with grammatical similarity. For instance, here we can see all the words that end in fish, but we could also use this to put all the participles together, all the, words that have a certain ending and belong to a certain category, or also lexical similarities to put all those words together. We also have statistics. The basic statistics you're going to see are word counts, and word counts in general, and word counts by file. But there are several other countings and divisions that they're going to show you. One of them is the type token ratio, that basically gives you an idea of the lexical richness of a text in English, for instance, by dividing the number of types or individual words by the number of tokens, which are the words in general as you count them from the first to the last one of a text.
And keywords, by definition, are words that within a certain text or set of texts, when compared to a reference corpus, they occur more often than we would expect them to occur only by chance. And there are several statistic calculations to assess the keenness of a word, but they all are going to compare its occurrences to a corpus that is usually larger and serves as a comparison benchmark. So depending on the reference corpus, different words will be highlighted as keywords. In this screenshot on the right, for example, you can see a list of keywords, the first ones, in a corpus of bread making recipes as compared to a corpus of cooking recipes in general.
So here's an example of a concordance line or keyword in context, where you can see the word that you're looking or researching centered, usually either in bold or highlighted in some different color, and the immediate context on the right and on the left. So each line of this is a context extracted from the file that's listed on the left side of the screen.
Now let's have a look at some of the tools this specialized software have to explore the patterns of language, these word combinations that typify specialized and general language discourses. Let's start with n-grams. N-grams are any sequences of contiguous n words, and hence the name n-grams. So every two, three, or four, etc. words occurring in a sequence in a text or in many texts coming from a corpus. You can also choose to include punctuation, numbers, and other special characters in your countings, but usually people count the words separated by an empty space. So if you look at the example on the right side coming from Sketch Engine, you're going to see a list of trigrams from a certain corpus and the number of times they occur in this corpus. You can see that some of them make sense for us, such as well as on line 2, and some of them don't. They're just sequences of words that repeat over and over again in that particular corpus. Now, clusters are n-grams containing a specific search word or expression. So let's say in this example here on the right that I'm looking for every sequence of 4 words in a corpus of recipes, such as the one that I'm using here for this example, containing the word oil. And we are going to see again that some of these sequences make sense, such as extra virgin olive oil, that happened 195 times in this particular corpus, and some of them won't, such as method heat the oil. Now, collocates are words that co-occur within a certain horizon, that is, up to X words to the left or to the right of a search word or expression, but not necessarily in the same sequence, which means there might be some intervening words between these co-occurring words or patterns. Let me give you an example of how we could use this to our benefit when translating a text. Let's say that I need to translate prato típico brasileiro from Portuguese into English. So the first prima facie translation, the first one that comes to my mind, is typical Brazilian dish if I translate word by word without checking any source or anything. But that doesn't sound very natural to me. It doesn't sound like something that I've heard many times before. So what I can do, I can go to a corpus such as Coca corpus that has tags for grammatical categories for each word of the corpus, and I can search for what are the most recurring adjectives occurring with dish that might be more natural, more idiomatic to use in this translation. So I go to Coca Corpus, I choose collocates, I type dish in the search word, and then I choose adjective as the grammatical category, and I limit my search to 3 words to the left of the word dish. And if I check the results, I did a search here and the word typical simply doesn't occur in the results. But I do have 3 very good candidates in the first 16 items in this list offered by the corpus: traditional, classic, and national. That might be a better fit for my translation. If I click on traditional, Coca Corpus is going to direct me to the keyword in context sentences, and I can check from these contexts here that they are pretty similar to the context that I wanted to translate from Portuguese into English. Here are some links for you to get started on working with Corpora and Corpus tools that you can download to your computer or use online. And in this orange box, there are several other tools and corpora that you can explore to learn more about how to use these tools in your translations. I hope this content was useful to you. Please help us spread the word, and if you want to learn more about translation and technology, check the other videos in the series. Obrigada!